Hello again. I'm Dr. Greg Oliver and welcome. Today I'm going to go deep into the medical treatment of weight loss and weight maintenance, specifically focusing on factor 2, exercise and weight loss. Let me ask you something. How many times have you started an exercise program to lose weight? You committed, you showed up, you pushed through the discomfort, and then you looked at the scale 3 months later wondering, why has nothing changed? If that's happened to you, I need you to hear this. You are not lazy, you're not broken, and you're not doing it wrong. You were just given the wrong expectation. Because here's what most people, and honestly most doctors, get wrong about exercise and weight loss. Exercise is not primarily a weight loss tool. Now, before you throw your gym shoes out the window, stick with me here. Because what the science actually says about exercise is, in many ways, is far more powerful than what you've been told. And understanding it correctly could change everything about the way you approach your health. I'm going to break down exactly what exercise does for weight loss, how much you need and what kind, why some people genuinely cannot lose weight from exercise no matter how hard they try. And that's not an excuse. There's hard science behind it. And most importantly, how to build a plan that you'll actually maintain for years, not weeks. So let's get into it. So why does exercise matter and what does the real science say? Well, before we talk about what exercise doesn't do particularly well, let me tell you what it does extraordinarily well, because this list that I'm about to give you should change your relationship with movement forever. We all presume that exercise has health benefits, but no one talks about the details. A landmark study published in Circulation in September of 2024 tracked 90,000 people and found that individuals who exercise regularly had reduced risk of developing more than 250 different health conditions compared to inactive people. That's 250 conditions. The largest reductions were for cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and sleep apnea. Now, I want to drill into the mechanisms here because this is where it gets really fascinating. Here are 5 reasons exercise is significantly improving your health with or without total body weight reduction. First, visceral or organ fat is the fat that kills. When you exercise, particularly aerobic exercise, your body preferentially burns visceral fat. That's the fat packed around your organs, deep inside your abdominal cavity, not the fat you can pinch. The fat you can't see, but that drives inflammation, insulin resistance, and cardiovascular disease. Research has shown that aerobic exercise reduces that visceral fat tissue even when there is no significant change on the scale, meaning your body composition is improving and your metabolic risk is dropping even when your weight hasn't moved. This can be measured by checking body composition, which we do regularly in our clinic. Patients who exercise see meaningful reductions in body fat and increases in lean tissue, whether the scale is moving or not. Secondly, cardiovascular machinery improves. Exercise makes your heart more efficient. Over time, your resting heart rate drops, not because your heart is weaker, but because each beat is pumping more blood. A slower resting heart rate is one of the strongest independent predictors of long-term survival that we have. Every slower, stronger beat at rest is extended lifespan. Aerobic exercise also lowers both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, even again in the absence of weight loss, through improved blood vessel lining function, increasing nitric oxide production, and enhanced blood vessel dilation. Third, exercise creates metabolic rewiring. Exercise stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis. Your cells literally build more energy-producing machinery. This improves your body's ability to oxidize fat as fuel, regulate blood sugar, and maintain insulin sensitivity. It lowers systemic inflammation and reduces oxidative stress at the cellular level. For our patients who are on GLP-1 medications, this is critically important because exercise amplifies the metabolic benefits hand in hand with those medications. Fourth, our brain and mental health need physical exertion. Exercise is one of the most powerful interventions for mental health we know of. It decreases BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, essentially a fertilizer for brain cells. It improves mood, reduces anxiety and depression, and protects against cognitive decline with aging. The literature here is extensive, consistent, and dose-dependent, with repeated studies showing up to 45% risk reduction of dementia with exercise. The fifth and final point. Exercise truly shines when it comes to weight loss maintenance. Here is the single most underappreciated fact about exercise and weight. While exercise is a modest tool for losing weight initially, it is an absolutely essential tool for keeping the weight off. The National Weight Registry, which tracks people who have successfully maintained significant weight loss for years, shows that the overwhelming majority engaged in substantial physical activity, not because it burns enormous calories, but because it regulates appetite hormones, preserves lean muscle mass during weight loss, and fundamentally changes how the body manages energy over time. So, to be precise, exercise may not be the best weight loss weapon, but it may be your only long-term weapon for weight maintenance. Now, let's look at how much and what type of exercise is needed and what the research says on this. Okay, so we've established that exercise is profoundly important, just perhaps not for the reason most people think. Let's answer this practical question. What kind of exercise do you need and how much? One of the most clarifying studies on this question comes from the E-Mechanic trial, or the Examination of Mechanisms of Exercise-Induced Weight Compensation trial. Whew, that's a mouthful. Researchers put sedentary adults on supervised exercise programs for 6 months. Some of them were burning 1,500 calories per week from exercise, and others burned up to 3,000 calories per week with exercise. The result: neither group lost as much weight as expected from the math would say. And here's why. The body compensates. When you exercise, several things happen beneath or under your awareness that protect your energy stores. Your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which we abbreviate as NEAT, which is the fidgeting, the walking, the spontaneous movement you do throughout the day, it decreases when you actively exercise. Your hunger hormones shift. Your brain begins quietly steering you toward more higher caloric foods. Some people unconsciously sit more, move less, and eat slightly more, completely without realizing it. This is not some weakness. This is an evolutionary, conserved survival mechanism. Your body is designed to resist energy deficits. When you were a hunter-gatherer, burning extra energy meant danger. Now it just means the scale doesn't move. So, let's review the current evidence-based recommendations for exercise. The American College of Sports Medicine and the World Health Organization both recommend a minimum of 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity, along with 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training. For clinically meaningful weight loss, however, most research points to 250 to 300 minutes per week of moderate activity. I know, this seems like a lot. The confusion comes from the difference in the amount of exercise needed for improved cardiovascular health and that for weight loss. We see data all the time telling us that 20 to 30 minutes of moderate exercise 3 times a week does wonders for our heart, and this is true. That exercise, however, is not enough for weight reduction. All exercise counts for health, but more is needed for weight loss. So that's kind of underestimated. There's another critical nuance here. A large 2024 study published in Circulation found that people who distributed exercise throughout the week in shorter bouts versus people who did longer weekend sessions Both showed significant reductions in those 225 or 250 plus health conditions. The pattern matters less than the consistency. There also seems to be a weight loss debate regarding aerobic exercise versus resistance training. Aerobic exercise, things like running, swimming, brisk walking, preferentially targets visceral fat and improves cardiorespiratory fitness most rapidly. A 2025 study in the American Journal of Physiology confirmed aerobic training is particularly effective at reducing dangerous abdominal fat deposits, even without change of weight on the scale. Resistance training using weights, resistance bands, and body weight exercises builds and preserves lean muscle mass. This matters enormously for weight management because muscle is metabolically active tissue. Every pound of muscle you carry burns approximately 6 to 10 calories per day when at rest. And critically, when people lose weight through diet or GLP-1 medications alone without resistance training, a substantial portion of that weight loss comes from muscle, not just fat. This can give the sagging skin and gaunt look of Ozempic face and Ozempic body. In our practice, we talk about body recomposition, not just weight loss. Resistance training shapes how your body loses weight, ensuring more fat loss and less muscle wasting. The verdict for which exercise is best for weight loss shows combined training wins. A 2024 systematic review and network meta-analysis comparing aerobic resistance and combined exercise interventions in patients with metabolic syndrome found that the hybrid protocol, that is, combining both aerobic and resistance training, produced the most significant cardiovascular and metabolic improvements. Not one or the other, both. And HIIT, high-intensity interval training, deserves a special mention here. Short bursts of high-intensity effort followed by recovery periods have shown to stimulate new mitochondrial growth and improve glucose metabolism time efficiently, meaning you can get significant metabolic benefits in 20 to 30 minutes if the intensity is right using HIIT training. My general recommendation for weight loss and metabolic health is 3 to 4 sessions of moderate activity weekly plus 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training. Now, if your time is limited, HIIT can compress the aerobic component effectively. Again, beginners in exercise must start slow and ramp up very slowly to ultimately reach these levels of duration and intensity. Now, I want to explore why some people genuinely cannot lose weight when they exercise. It's a genetic issue. This subject does not get nearly enough airtime. The science now clearly shows that not everyone's body responds to exercise the same way. And for some people, the genetic cards they were dealt make it genuinely physiologically difficult to lose significant weight through exercise, regardless of how hard they exercise or how consistently they work at it. This is not an excuse. This is peer-reviewed biology. The most comprehensive data on individual variation in exercise response comes from the Heritage Family Study, a landmark multi-center trial that enrolled 742 healthy but sedentary adults and put them all through the same meticulously controlled, laboratory-based endurance training program for 20 weeks. The average improvement in VO2 max, which is the gold standard measure of cardiorespiratory fitness, was about 400 milliliters of oxygen per minute, or 400, but the range was enormous. Some individuals improved by nearly 1,000 milliliters. Others improved by almost nothing, less than 100. Same program, same 20 weeks with dramatically different results. So what does this mean? What this told us is that there are high responders and low responders to exercise, and genetics is driving much of that difference. Now, this next part may get a bit complex and science heavy, but hang with me. When looking at a person's genetic makeup to exercise response, a 2024 systematic review in Frontiers of Genetics journal analyzed 47 studies on genetic markers associated with weight and fat loss from exercise and diet. The findings confirm that specific gene variations substantially alter how individuals respond to the same exercise program. The FTO gene is the hunger override gene. This FTO gene, officially the fat mass and obesity associated gene, is the most studied obesity-related genetic variant. Individuals who carry the risk form of this gene have increased appetite signaling, greater fat storage tendencies, and an altered reward response to food. A 2024 analysis of 30 studies across 47,000 people found that the FTO genotype significantly modifies how individuals respond to exercise and dietary interventions for weight loss. Critically, physical activity does blunt the effect of the FTO gene, meaning exercise can partially lessen this genetic disadvantage, but it cannot eliminate it. FTO risk carriers are fighting a genetic headwind that most clinicians never discuss with them. Another gene, ACTN3, is the speed versus endurance gene. The ACTN3 gene encodes for alpha-actinic 3, a protein found exclusively in fast-twitch muscle fibers. A common variant, the XX genotype, results in complete absence of this protein. Now, approximately 18% of people of European descent carry this genetic variant. The XX genotype of this gene predisposes individuals towards a more endurance-oriented muscle fiber profile with less explosive power. So think of a distance runner as opposed to a sprinter. From a weight loss perspective, this matters because fast twitch fibers are more metabolically expensive to maintain and to recruit during high-intensity exercise. The type of exercise that feels best for these individuals, which is steady-o-cardio exercise, may be precisely the type that triggers the greatest compensatory response, which can defeat the effects of the exercise. Another gene, the MC4R gene, is the satiety regulator. Variants in MC4R gene, the melanocortin-4 receptor, directly affects satiety or stomach fullness feeling, signaling to the hypothalamus in the brain. People with MCR4 variants experience blunted fullness signals and exaggerated hunger, which means that when exercise increases their caloric need, their appetite response is magnified. The exercise creates a deficit. The genetics erase it through food intake. This brings us to the most compelling and underappreciated pieces of research in exercise physiology, and it connects directly to muscle fiber genetics we discussed. A 2023 scientific paper published in the American Journal of Physiology, Endocrinology, and Metabolism reviewed the muscle fiber type in people with obesity and found a consistent pattern. Individuals with obesity have a significantly lower portion of type 1 fibers, which are slow twitch, oxidatively efficient, fat-burning fibers, and a higher proportion of metabolically unfavorable type 2X fibers. Now, type 1 fibers are densely packed with mitochondria. They run on fat burning. They are the workhorses of sustained metabolic activity. Type 2X fibers, by contrast, have the least favorable metabolic responses, including the lowest glucose handling capacity, and are associated with greater metabolic dysfunction. So, here's the critical question that this raises. Does obesity cause this fiber shift, or does the fiber composition predispose toward obesity in the first place? The evidence increasingly suggests it's both. But genetics set the baseline fiber distribution, with muscle fiber composition estimated to be 40 to 50% inherited. So what does this mean clinically? Some patients have a muscle fiber profile that fundamentally limits their fat burning capacity. That's the machinery needed to burn fat during and after exercise, and it's operating at a reduced level. They're not failing at exercise, their cellular hardware is just different. Our phenotype is the expression of our genes, or our genotype. Hair color, height, skin tone, and what your body is made of and what it looks like is your phenotype. We now understand that with weight loss, there is a compensator phenotype. This is an important concept in exercise science. Research published in the Frontiers of Psychology in 2023 identified that some individuals are metabolic and behavioral compensators, meaning when they exercise, their body mounts a disproportionately strong response. Their appetite surges more, their NEAT or non-exercise activity thermogenesis drops more, sleep patterns shift subtly. These individuals can exercise consistently, correctly, and at a significant volume and still show minimal weight loss because the compensatory response essentially zeroes out the energy deficit created by exercise. This is why in our clinical practice, when patients tell me they exercise 5 days a week and can't lose a pound, my first reaction is not skepticism, it's curiosity. What is your body doing during the response to that exercise? And how do we work with your biology rather than against it? The answer for many of these patients is that diet and, where appropriate, medical intervention need to do the heavy lifting on weight loss, while exercise is deployed for its enormous overall health benefits and its critical role in weight maintenance. That is a fundamentally different prescription than go to the gym and lose weight. And it's more honest and a more effective one. So, knowing all of this, let's talk about what actually works for building an exercise habit that lasts longer than 6 weeks. Because here's the hard truth. The best exercise program is the one you actually do consistently over years, not the technically optimal program you abandon after month number 2. I'd like to look at why exercise programs fail and the behavioral science behind it. Research on exercise adherence, or sticking with it, is remarkably consistent on a few key points. And once you understand why programs fail, you can then engineer around those failure points. So let's look at the failure points. Failure point 1 deals with outcome-only motivation. Most people start exercising to lose weight, but when the weight doesn't move, for all the reasons I've discussed previously, motivation collapses. You're essentially running a machine on a fuel source that just isn't going to get you there. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2024 found that how we frame our own identity is so important. An identity of, I am someone who moves every day, rather than an outcome of, I need to lose 30 pounds, increased habit formation by 32%. When the exercise becomes who you are rather than what you're trying to achieve, the scale becomes irrelevant to your consistency. Failure point 2 is starting too big. The research of habit formation is clear. Consistent, repeatable behaviors form habits faster than ambitious, complex ones. A daily 20-minute walk creates a stronger neural pattern in our brain than an intense 90-minute program you can only sustain 3 times before burning out. The habit literature, particularly from the American Council on Exercise and behavioral scientists in the exercise space, shows that event-based triggers outperform time-based triggers, such as after I pour my morning coffee, I walk for 20 minutes. That works much better than I work out at 6 a.m. every day. The coffee is a consistent cue. The alarm clock is a battle of willpower. Failure point 3 is the all or nothing approach. Missed one exercise session? Most people mentally declare the program failed and stop. The research on habit resilience suggests the opposite approach. Expect lapses, plan for them, and define success as returning to exercise, not as perfect attendance. Self-selected exercise habits have a 37% higher success rate than externally imposed ones. Give people autonomy over how they move, and they move more. Let's look at an exercise framework that works and call it the 4 levers. Lever 1, start smaller than you think you should. Week 1 of your new exercise plan should feel almost embarrassingly easy. 3 20-minute walks, a 15-minute resistance circuit twice. That's it. The goal in week 1 is not fitness. The goal is creating a new neural pathway or habit. The automatic behavior chain that says, this is what I do now, and you build it up from there. Lever 2 is find movement you don't hate. The science does not care whether you run, swim, cycle, dance, row, or play pickleball. What the science cares about is that you show up. If you hate the treadmill, get off the treadmill. Sustainable exercise is exercise that matches your personality, your schedule, and your preferences. Enjoyment predicts long-term adherence more reliably than optimal program design. Lever 3 is to track something other than weight loss. Because we've established that the scale may not move the way you expect with exercise, you need progress metrics that actually reflect the real benefits of exercise. Track your resting heart rate. Watch it drop over time. Track how many flights of stairs you can climb without stopping now. Track your sleep quality. Track your blood pressure. Track how your clothes fit. Track body fat percentage. These markers will show consistent improvement even when the scale is stubborn, and they'll give you the feedback loop that your motivation needs. Lever 4 regards what we call social architecture and accountability. Accountability is one of the most consistently powerful predictors of exercise persistence in research. This can mean a workout partner, a class with a financial commitment, a coach, a wearable device that gives you data, or a doctor or clinician who reviews your activity with you. External structure reduces the daily decision-making burden, and decision fatigue kills exercise habits. So after all this, the studies, the data, and the science, what's my clinical recommendation for exercise to my patients? During the weight loss phase, here is my foundational exercise framework. Number 1, build up over time to 150 to 250 minutes of moderate aerobic activity weekly, walking, cycling, swimming, elliptical, or some combination of those. Number 2, build up to 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training or body weight exercise weekly, targeting major muscle groups with progressive loading of weight. Number 3, if you're time constrained, replace some of the cardio with 2 HIIT sessions of 20 to 30 minutes weekly. Number 4, a priority is consistency over intensity, especially in the first 3 months. And number 5, exercise is non-negotiable during weight loss if you use GLP-1 medication. Resistance training is a must to avoid muscle loss. And for patients with known compensator tendencies, those who exercise faithfully and see minimal change, we adjust the expectations explicitly. Exercise is your health insurance and your maintenance plan. Diet and medication are your weight loss tools. Both have essential roles, and neither replaces the other. So let me bring all of this together for you. Exercise is not overrated. It is the single most powerful general health intervention available to us human beings. It protects us against over 250 diseases, rewires your metabolism at the cellular level, protects your brain, and can reduce your all-cause annual chance of dying by 47%, as well as extend your lifespan, and is perhaps the most important factor in keeping weight off once you've lost it. But exercise alone as a weight loss strategy works modestly for most people, unpredictably for many people, and almost not at all for a subset of people whose genetics, muscle fiber composition, and compensatory biology make it physiologically nearly impossible. And those people deserve to know that. Not as an excuse to stop moving, but as information that allows them to make smarter decisions about their total weight loss strategy. Now, if you've been frustrated by exercise programs that didn't deliver what you expected, now you know why. And more importantly, you know what to do differently. Move because you're worth it. Move because your heart needs it. Move because your brain thrives on it. Move because the long game of your health depends on it. Just don't move under the illusion that the scale is the only thing worth measuring. Remember, exercise is only one of the 5 factors in the medical treatment of obesity and overweight. Every person is unique. A strategy must be built for you, including nutrition, exercise, metabolic enhancement, hormone optimization, and psychological strengthening. I'm Dr. Greg Oliver, and I welcome your comments and questions. Please subscribe to get more of my videos built from my medical and personal experience with this disease of obesity and overweight, as I hope they can assist you on your personal journey to forever thinner. I'll see you on our next video. So long for now.